We'll now begin with the first technical session of day 4, which is the 9th technical session of the workshop on the topic e-resource management and overview, a case study of IIT Gandhinagar by Dr. T.S. Kumbar, who is the advisor, Librarian Institute Archives, IIT Gandhinagar. Prior to this, he has worked as Chief Librarian at DAIICT Gandhinagar, where he has set up the library services from the very beginning. He was also with InflipNet Center as Scientist D, where he initiated number of new programs, including Soul Software, E-Resources Consortium, Union Catalogs, ETD, DDS, Retrospective Conversion, to name a few. Before moving to InflipNet, Dr. Kumbar worked as Assistant Librarian at IIT Bombay and supervised serials, information services, resource sharing, and was involved in automating the library. He is a recipient of various fellowships like Fulbright Fellowship in Library and Information Technology, American Library Association Fellowship, and Canadian Faculty Research Fellowships. He has been awarded as Best Young Librarian by Satkal Trust and Best Librarian by Manlibnet in recognition of his contributions to the profession. He was also a member of Library Advisory Board Council of ACM and IEEE USA. Over to you, Kumbar sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the generous introduction. And thank you, Dr. Sri, for giving me this opportunity to be part of this interesting workshop. I feel it's a proud privilege to be associated with you and also particularly being part of this workshop. Thank you so much. I think now I will try to share my slides from here. Just give me minute. What's happening here? Just give me a minute. Try to. Has my slide come up?
Not yet, but I think you have to open it, you know.
Okay, I have opened it. Maybe I have.
We can see your folder.
Oh, okay. I need to go back once again. How about now?
No.
Not yet.
Why don't you right click and open it?
Is it now fine?
Not coming. I mean, no.
Oh, okay. I'll just close and then once again take it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you. I'm all set. Okay. So once again, thank you, and my apologies for the delay.
No problem, sir.
So this small glitches. So we have been using this system for quite some time, but still always you face certain issues. Okay. So as suggested, I've been given this particular topic, electronic resources management, an overview. And also, while I talk about it, give you an overview, I am also going to talk a little bit about what we do in IIT Gandhinagar and how we have been managing So I have quite many slides, and I believe I have almost about 60 minutes to talk, and then maybe 15-20 minutes to interact, take the question
Yeah,
answer.
yes, yes. You can definitely take 70 minutes for your presentation and about 20 minutes for maybe 15 to 20 minutes for interaction. Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to finish early. And my request to participants is that yeah, whenever you feel like asking questions, please go ahead and stop. Otherwise, it will be one-sided talk. So feel free to stop me. Okay. So what I intend to cover is start with the introduction and then types of e-resources and e-resource life cycle. This is where I'm going to spend more time. And here I will also talk about what we do, how we manage the electronic resources at our institute, and then talk to you briefly about ERM as electronic resource management systems, both commercial and open source, and then quickly, briefly touch upon Coral implementation at IIT Gandhinagar, and I will also share with you some of the sources that help us to keep updated. And also, NASIC has core competencies defined for managing the electronic resources. I'll just share a little bit about that, and then recent developments and challenges and opportunities. That's what is the scope of my today's presentation. So, so to begin with, we all know whether big or small, new or old libraries, we are all moving towards electronic content. And particularly when it comes to the journals, we have almost moved to the electronics, and also partially reference sources, reference collection and other databases. And slowly we are moving towards the electronic books. So there is a transition, and definitely we have moved to the particularly journals and databases. So managing these electronic resources as compared to the print collection, and there are a lot of differences, and also there are some similarities, and some of the processes or steps that we were following in terms of managing the print collection would be same: budget allocation, going to the committee and taking the approvals, recommendations, and ordering and identifying the vendors. Some of these things are same, but otherwise, electronic resources, come up with have plenty of other issues to tackle with. So these resources, as you all know, are accessible inside and outside the library, literally from anywhere. So that way. And there is no restriction on the technology enables us, and if the license permits us to provide that kind of access. So, and we are actually paying for access than owning. Literally, the amount that we pay towards any electronic resources that we access today, whether it's a perpetual access, whether you have archival, it's not, most of the content is not sitting in our library, it is sitting somewhere else. So we are basically paying for the access. So, and this access is offered from not just from one platform. Many of the resources are available more than one platforms. So same product, but it's available from different platforms and hosted by different agencies. So that also poses certain challenges to us. So, and when we talk about electronic resources, it involves a technology because it's electronic content. Then price, there is no fixed price. We just don't know what price we need to pay. And there is a big document called contract, license, and we need to negotiate for every resource that we want to have it for our users. And the access modes, whether it's on campus, off campus, what is accessible, what is not accessible, how many back volumes, and all of those issues are there. And also preservation is another issue, because when you go in for archival collection, and where is it stored, and do you get access to it? So, and then you also see the challenge coming from the user side. There's a demand, a continuous demand from the users for accessing the electronic resources. Now they want us to deliver wherever they are, whatever they need. So it's our job to look at how we provide that document and where they want. And so this electronic resource management brings a very complex and challenging job. And so if you closely look at, it has been a dynamic field, it's evolving and ever changing. And particularly when open access and predatory publications are increasing. So it's a, how do you manage all of this? So that requires new skill sets. So the skills that we have learned in these libraries and schools are not going to be enough. We need to continuously look at what new products are coming, on what platform they are hosted, and what technology and what interfaces, what kind of interfaces are there, and in what format content is coming. So we need to keep, all the time looking at these trends and enhancing our skills. So not only skills, but also we need to look at how we reorganize the entire range of workflow within our library, because things are changing. So traditional method of managing the electronic resources is no longer valid. Now, this is something that we all know. I don't have to describe. So all that I would like to say is that all that what we see in print has now or is now available in electronic format, and including even, there are no takers for DVDs, video cassettes in the library now. It's all streaming collections. You have the content which comes with the text, audio, video, and there are image databases like JSTOR itself has a art, database. So there are a number of electronic, take any example and you see that there is a electronic version that is available. So largely, most of the content, the scholarly content that we would like to have it as part of our collection is now available in electronic form. So, way back in 2008 itself, one of the authors who published this is a Pesh. He published an article in Serials Librarian, and he defined 6 different steps in the whole range of electronic resources management. He says, the one is acquire, and he has defined certain steps there, and then providing access and administering basically managing the collection, and then providing the support in order to see that there is a smooth access to the resources, and evaluate these resources that we have provided access to our users, and the renewal. So he came up with these different 6 steps as a part of the electronic resources life cycle. And then the EBSCO also came up with these 5 steps, more or less, I think, covering all the aspects that the previous, the author has provided. So they're also repeating here: acquire, provide access, administer, provide a support, and evaluate and monitor. So they are skipping the renewal, but it is somewhere it's covered. So further descriptions are there, and I'm not going to go into the details. And these slides will be available, and these are all simple descriptions actually. So EBSCO defined 5 steps, whereas the earlier author he defined 6 steps. Now OCLC, which is a well-known networking body, they started developing a system for library management, and which included the electronic resources management. As they were developing a library management system, they thought they should also cover the electronic resource aspects. So they came up with a comprehensive report, and they also defined 6 steps. So as you see on this screen here, the task is select, acquire, and describe. Selecting is identifying the electronic resource, acquiring it, go through the process of procurement, and describe is basically cataloging and providing access. So then they also define certain challenges at each step that one need to face in order to manage the electronic resources. So then the discover, how does user discover? How do you enable user to discover the resources that you subscribe or part of the collection? And then the access, how do you provide the access and manage the access, and then the renewal. So at each step, they have once again given the detailed issues that need to be addressed, or tasks that need to be undertaken. So so basically, broadly, there are 6 steps that have been agreed upon and provided here. And then there was a development sometime in 2012, 13, 14, and of course some of the professionals kept working on it. And largely, when you look at the entire document, it's taking the old wine in the new bottle. So they defined here, once again, 6 steps with somewhat different terminology. So investigate is that, identify what you want to subscribe to, what you want to access, provide access to. So use the various sources and, do all that homework and identify, and then procure. And then implement is basically, yeah, someone is raising a hand. I don't see here. Would you like to ask?
Dr. Shiva has raised a hand. Yes, Shiva.
Yeah.
Dr. Shiva.
Please go ahead.
Or maybe by mistake it happened. You can continue, sir. No.
Okay. So investigate, acquire, and implement. Implementation is basically, acquiring and providing access to it, and the evaluation is, evaluate the usage, basically how useful this particular e-resource has been, and then the cancel and replace. So if based on the evaluation, based on the usage and taking into various factors. So one can take a call on whether to renew or not to renew, or replace with something new. That's the step. And then preserve. Preserve is something that, once again, whether if you have paid for it, if you own it, then how do you preserve it, or where is it archived? Whatever subscribed content, where is it going to be available? Is it going to be with the publisher? Is it going to be some agency who is archiving this forever, and you get access to it? So that's how this particular team of professionals defined. They call it as a terms, TERMS, techniques for electronic resource management. One particular issue of information technology reports published by ELA covers the entire this content, and also they have published a book in 2020 which is on the same topic with a lot of details, and including they also have covered quite a bit on open access resources. So looking at all of this, what we did for us is that we tried to prepare a kind of a checklist, and we at IIT Gandhinagar, we thought that, let's divide all of these 6 steps into 9. So this is for our internal benefit, and also, and broadly, I think it covers most of the tasks that are defined by the other professionals who have published quite a lot on this particular topic. So so we said discovery of a new resource. How do you identify, and then have a trial access before you take a decision, and The next is acquisition of a resource, which includes a price negotiation. Then you come down to the contract negotiation or licensing, and then activation of the access and or provide provision for access. So various on various platforms and different ways, whether it is through your online catalog or web-based, whether it's a to Z listing or publisher-wise listing, whichever it is. And then next step is we thought we should also pay emphasis on user promotion. What are the various ways one can promote the usage, and the troubleshooting? What are the challenges that we face if we want to provide seamless access to the electronic resources that we subscribe, and gathering the user statistics either through InfluNet or directly from the publisher, or use any other different modes. Use the citation databases or publications itself, our own publications where resources are cited, resources subscribed by the libraries are cited. And review and renewal and cancellation. So broadly, if you see, I think these are not quite different from the earlier 6 steps that have been defined by the other authors. So that's kind of a broad perspective as far as the e-resource management lifecycle is concerned. So coming to IIT Gandhinagar, this is our newly designed website, and you can see the digital resources. We have listed out the different types of digital resources, and also other resources that we are getting in the library. And this is the way how we this is the main starting point for accessing the digital resources. And then what do we subscribe to, or how do we subscribe to? So we have nearly about 70 electronic resources, mostly the collections, and barring a few individual titles. So out of the 70, 16 resources are fully supported by eShodh Sindhu Consortium. And then there are 13 resources which are, where the price is negotiated by consortium, and then we pay for it. IIT Gandhinagar pays for it, and the institute supported are 41 resources. Then we also have institutional membership to various professional bodies. There are 14 of them. There are at least 10 of them are professional associations who are known for publishing the journals and electronic collections in their respective areas. As a part of this membership, we get access to nearly 20 plus core journals and a couple of digital library collection, which includes their not only journals but also conference papers and other publications as well. So we thought that is a good way to minimize the expenditure on electronic resources. And of course, not all professional bodies give you a membership, but there are some who have been giving, particularly in civil engineering and artificial intelligence and some of these areas. So that has been quite useful for us. So if we look at by type or collection, it obviously includes journals and the databases, including the citation databases and other bibliographical databases. We don't have an extensive collection of electronic books, except a couple of those ones that I'll talk about it. And reference collections, there's one UNESCO's collection that we get, something around 25 encyclopedia are put under one umbrella. That's a very comprehensive collection, and not many are aware about this particular resource, but I think we find it's quite useful. And of course, being an engineering institute, we do have a standards collection as well. And so in terms of the bibliographical databases, this is how our collection looks. Scopus and Web of Science stands out, and SciFinder is a major one. These are the 3, and MathSciNet. These 4 constitutes as a core. Rest of them are kind of supporting. And as you see, we also have a databases to support the social science. And then, when you look at the full text resources, we do have a certain collection which is multidisciplinary, and also some focused on exclusively science. Multidisciplinary, you all know JSTOR, Science Direct, and Annual Reviews. They cover more than one discipline. And sciences, we have four to five major science disciplines. In order to support their requirements, we have been subscribing to largely professional body publications. And then in the areas of engineering and technology, so once again, most of the core resources are subscribed. As you see, most of these are published by professional societies. And then in order to support humanities and social science, we do have some core collection. And also, in addition to the collections, we do have small collection of individual titles. So sometimes, like for example, Taylor and Francis, they have a good number of titles, but we don't subscribe to all of them. And same is the case with SAYS. We do get some titles that are core for us. So that constitutes our collection, journals and database collection. And when it comes to the electronic books, so McGraw-Hill Access Engineering is one collection which has both reference books, handbooks, and encyclopedia, plus textbooks. And then we have EBSCO host. This has got about 5,000 engineering core collection. This is aggregated content. And the other one that I was talking about is UOLSS, Encyclopedia of Life Support System. It's nothing to do with the life sciences, but it covers, it's something like a Britannica. And it's almost about 30 plus encyclopedias are put together into a one database, and it doesn't cost much. And then we have access to most of the, I think, ESS member libraries have access to World eBook Library and South Asian Archives. And in addition to subscribed resources, we also put in a lot of effort to identify open access resources and identify and list them and draw attention of our faculty members and researchers. These are all linked on our websites, and we also periodically keep communicating to faculty and research scholars. They are listed into different categories here. I'm not going to go into the details, but enough to say that there are plenty of scholarly electronic resources under each category, which can supplement these subscribed e-resources. And in order to enable our faculty and students, our end users, to identify quickly when they go to a Google Scholar or any of these scholarly search engine, when they do a search, they should be able to quickly locate these articles, whether these are kind of within the paywall or they are freely available, they are open access articles. So what we suggest, periodically we suggest our students and faculty to download some of these browser extensions. There are 5 that we have identified. So these are the 3. EndNote Click is one, Google Scholar button is one, just Code Discovery is another one, and Open Access button and Unpaywall. These are browser extensions one can download and put on their desktop or laptop, and whenever they access electronic resources, search and try to access, and immediately this message that pops up, and this is available open access mode, kind of that. So that saves a lot of their time, and so we try to keep our users informed from time to time. That is as far as open access resources are concerned. Then of course, access policy is something which is important, and we have a 2-page document that is prepared and put on our website, and we draw attention of our users, particularly newer ones who join. We draw the attention. Otherwise, they feel that everything is accessible to them, and they can download as much as they want and all that. So this was widely discussed, and we have designed this policy and placed it on the website for the benefit of the users. So coming back to the life cycle, maybe I will stop here, and if there are any questions I would like to take, because so I have a long checklist. So based on the life cycle, and I'm going to talk about it as to how we use this checklist in order to execute or manage our own work. And largely, I mean, 80 to 90% of it that we try to follow.
Yeah. There is one question it's come from Dr. Shiva.
Yeah.
So please explain about auto renewal clauses that is there in the license agreements. It's a question that has come.
Oh, we haven't yet come to that, but auto renewal is, when this is something very tricky. I think most of us who sign the agreement are involved largely in the electronic resources subscription. So we need to read these fine lines in the license. So auto renewal is that at the end of the 1 year cycle, without informing whether you are taking a decision or not, and you are if you have signed the agreement and there is a clause that it's a publisher has the right to go ahead and renew your subscription, then they will continue, and
it can come as a catch.
That's a kind of a catch. That's kind of a catch. And there are I know some of the people have paid a hefty price for that. And legally speaking, you are bound to pay also. I mean, bound to take it whether you like it or not. Right.
I think a couple of more questions are there. One came from Mr. Srikumar Nair.
Sir, my question is that could you tell me this core discovery, is it open source or is it a paid one? In your previous slide, just slide up before this, you mentioned core discovery. So is it an open source or is it a paid?
No, we are not using any discovery source, discovery tool. Here I use the term discovery is to locate and identify a resource that you want to subscribe to. Okay, what are the various sources that you use to locate a new resource that would be of interest to your faculty and the users? We haven't gone to that stage of spending on the resource discovery.
Okay. Another question is from Mr. Dr. Vijayananda Pradhan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, in your previous presentation slide, job is a word. You use job, video journals. Can you tell something about this, sir? Video journals?
Actually, this has come up almost about 10 years back. They have now almost about 20 plus journals in 3 different segments. So this is basically, this contains the video of experiments or lab testing and workshops. Actually live, these ones are recorded, and then they come in the form of the journals, and they are in different topics actually. And now they are putting up the script for so all that experiments, and the text is also coming, and we subscribe to 4 such resources, and some of our ISER libraries subscribe to larger number, maybe dozen journals. This is an interesting collection, but once again the cost is a factor. And especially during the pandemic, and there was a lot of rush for using such journals because the students were not on the campus, and faculty were not able to conduct the experiments or lab classes or workshop classes in the workshops and all that. So they were trying to use some of those resources, and
One more question, sir. One more question. Sir, you are subscribing 2 citation databases simultaneously, Scopus and Web of Science.
Yeah.
Is there any relevance to that citation databases for your organization?
Yeah, we are subscribing to two databases, both the database and what's your question? Why are we subscribing? Or
What is the justification for this? Two citation databases.
yeah, so one, Scopus is a database which we subscribe to, and Web of Science is a database which is provided by ESS. And the Web of Science is a very high quality database, but covers a limited number of journals. But whereas Scopus covers something around 26,000 journals. Okay, whereas Web of Science has only half the number of titles. And also Scopus, in terms of the social science, their coverage is also more, and conferences, conference proceedings coverage is more and frequently updated. But I think both the databases, are useful, but there is some amount of overlap. I do agree with you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Venkatesha.
Sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Sir, we are providing e-resources through in two ways, sir. One is campus-wide, another one is off-campus, right, sir? Sir, what the sources we are accessing through campus-wide, the same sources which are accessing by the off-campus will not be opening. Is the majority times it happened to me, sir. I'm not getting the reason why it is happening like this.
But what kind of remote access tool are you using?
Yes, sir. Remote access, sir. Remote access tool we are using, sir. This one.
Yeah, I think we have 70 resources. So there's not a single resource which is not accessible off campus. We are also using the remote access.
Yes, sir.
So what we need to do is basically we need to share the details with the remote X people, and they have to enable. Right? Yeah. I don't think hardly there are any resources which I think these people are not supporting.
The very purpose of implementing remote access is actually for remote access.
Yeah. No, there could be some new resources, and some of the publishers are a bit finicky about providing the details to a third party. But then I think we need to convince that this is an agency
one issue, Kumbar sir, one issue with the remote access was that they were using one of their servers from Germany. So publishers were a little stunned to see the IP coming from a German thing. Right. So they were restricting access, So that was, I think, these kinds of things are mainly case-based. So you have to take up the matter with the consent and then solve it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Can I proceed?
Yeah, I think if we will proceed, then we will get back to the questions again.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going, quickly going to run through some of these steps in the electronic resources life cycle. It's nothing but a kind of a checklist, for all of us to look at. The largely, how do we go about identifying the potential resource when we want to subscribe? So one is that the publisher serves as a source, and of course vendors. In the case of the electronic resources, hardly we depend on the vendors or aggregators for that matter. And of course, we look at the references coming from the librarians. We interact with other IIT librarians, and we look at other similar library websites. And also we have benchmarked certain libraries within the country and outside. We look at their website as to what they are subscribing to. And also we look at the recommendations coming from our users. And there are journals which extensively reviews the electronic products, particularly electronic resources and databases. And there are some case studies published by different professional colleagues in the professional journals. So if you look at the issues in science and technology libraries, every issue has a product review. And those reviews gives you a kind of idea as to what this product is all about, and what is the coverage, and what are the overlap with other resources, and things like that. So in the similar way that we were doing when it comes to the print, so we have been doing that. And also, how do we determine? And so after we identify those resources, we also study the overlap, and this is something that everybody would be doing it, overlap with the existing resources, and also look at the license terms and possible access points. How do they provide the access to, and what is the pricing? And any of these are, OA journals, whether it is gold or hybrid or whatever it is, and by any chance, these are predatory publications. And are they listed in the Web of Science master list? And so we also look at what are the impact factors. Are there many requests coming from our users for articles? And see the citations within our own articles published by our own faculty members and all that. So some of this basic work that we do before we really come up with a list of electronic resources that we need to subscribe to. And then, so once we determine that, here is a resource that we need to really go a little further and look at extensively. And we ask for a trial access, and most of you all do it. This is nothing new that I'm talking about here. But then, so one thing that we are very cautious about it, most of the publishers or vendors come up saying that, why don't you set up a trial access? So we just don't lend our platform for anybody. We are very cautious about it. We do some homework, and only when we are convinced that this is something, that a product that we need to look at it much more carefully and needs some more evaluation, then only we go in for a trial. Otherwise, setting up a trial and following it up, it takes a lot of time. And we just want to avoid that, and only in rare cases we set up. And why do we link somebody's product on our website? And one also has to be very cautious about it. So when do you do it, and what is the right time to do it, and whom do you address your email when you set up a trial access, and whether it is going to be IP authentication, login and password. And there are quite a few, whether you want to do it during vacation, during semester, or what are the periods that you want to avoid. So we look at all of that factors, and then arrange for the trial access. And of course, the publisher will ask the details like how many users, what are the IP address, all that we need to provide. And while we ask for a trial access, we also want to get a sense of what is the cost of this particular product. So if not the exact cost, but at least a range, so that we know whether it's worth going forward and spending more time. And also we keep trying, looking at, how the trial is going, whether, people are accessing it, do we need to communicate properly? And during that period, we also identify the team of colleagues, faculty colleagues and students who can evaluate this product. And we also spend quite some time to look at this, content. And also usage data, feedback, and we also at the end of the this one, we also do a small survey and look at the product usability, usefulness, and then take it forward to the next step. So then the next step is selection and acquisition, and so basically once again you are going through a further steps. So you are critically looking at the content, technical requirements, and the functional reliability, and vendor support, and also acquisition. So just to give you a glimpse of what all that one can do when we are looking at the content. We may not be experts, but still we can, to a certain extent, take a decision looking at the content. We can also get our users involved in looking at all of these aspects as far as the content is concerned, how depth, the breadth of the collection is, what is the quality, and so level of use, and the preferred format, whether all the articles are in PDF format, and so archiving, how many back files, how many years back files are we going to get, and how frequently the content is updated, and all of that factors. And then technical requirements, So there are many of these ones that one need to look at it. I'm not going to go into the details. I think we already have spent almost 50 minutes. So we need to carefully look at all these technicals. We just cannot ignore this. And then we have a functional reliability, particularly when it comes to the search interface. And also different features, whether you have a e-alerting system there, whether compatible to citation management tools, whether you can download these articles and build your own, small library of useful articles, and the personalization features, and how useful is the interface in terms of the putting up your search strategies, and various other functional reliabilities we look at. And then vendor, if at all we are going through a vendor, we need to look at various aspects. But in most cases, we try to go to the publishers. We try to avoid going through the vendor unless it is inevitable. So of course, so there are once again good number of issues that one need to look at it, whether it's a publisher or vendor. We need to really see that. Particularly statistical reporting, whether you are able to take the statistics, and because that is something that is important for all of us. That serves as one of the major criteria. And do the publisher supports conducting the training programs, and do they have people in India and who can be contacted, and all of these typical things that we have been doing for library management systems and other technologies that we use in the library. And then we go to the acquisition when here I think so once again there are a number of things that one need to look at it, and we try to consciously look at all of these purchase models of pricing basically, and it varies and depends on number of users and simultaneous access. So most of the time the publisher will come and say that okay, the entire your institute will be using, and this is what is the price. So we really have to give them the details about who is going to use how many faculty members are working in this area and all that. And of course, we do, there's no resource that we directly subscribe without checking with the consortium, and also group of libraries within the IIT system, or ISERs, or similar other libraries, as to are they subscribing, what is the price they are paying, and what are the difficulties that they are facing. So all of that one. And then, of course, when it comes to the pricing, there are a number of things, combined model, whether it's you pay for current only, or for the archives as well, or you pay for few years back volumes, or you go for a complete archival collection. Paper use is something that is we haven't gone in. And there was one particular database where we had to, since it's a core database, but then in terms of the quality and all that, it is core, but we did not have many users. We had to go and buy only number of articles. We did not go for the entire collection. We had to buy 100 articles or 200 articles, depending on the need we did. So print plus electronic, of course, print, most of us have discontinued the print. And so we also have to look at the big deals, bundles, whether subject-wise collections you want to go in for, or how is the pricing working, and how many titles are useful within that subject collection, and all that we check. So we also try to take an introductory price offer. We try to explore that if we are the first subscriber in India for a particular resource, or for the first time if we are subscribing, are there possibilities that we can negotiate and get the better pricing, multi-year pricing, and pro rata if we take a decision in the middle of the year. Of course, what are the APC charges if the journal is a hybrid journal? So we also look at all of those ones, and so quite a few other things that we look at before we take a decision. And these I feel are important to minutely look at, because electronic resource is something where it's not, many things are not very clear. And we have seen the libraries paying for higher prices, and then it becomes difficult for other library to negotiate when somebody has paid a higher prices. So we don't want to set that example ourselves. We want to make an effort and see that we get the best price. And then the next step is the licensing. Here what we try to do is that we try to look at the model licensing agreement and try to understand each clause, and then try to see whether we are in agreement with, or these clauses are favorable. And of course, as an alternative to model license agreement, this is available on the CRL website, and of course there is also alternative to this. There is a SHERU, shared electronic resource understanding. We haven't explored much, but we are keen, because going through a 25-30 pages of document, licensing document sent by some of the publishers, we just don't know what we are missing, and we are not able to interpret certain clauses. And if that publisher has already is a part of SHERU, and if they have agreed to follow the SHERU guidelines, it would be easier for us to go into that kind of understanding. And I do see that quite a few libraries in India have already signed under the SHERU. So yeah, I think this is something that I think we can all look at. We need not always sign a big license agreement, but of course it is kind of having a confidence in a publisher, or libraries, our publisher having a confidence in the libraries. It works both ways, so we need to look at that as well. And then, yeah, this is the model licensing. The library license is a website, and also there's a discussion forum. One can subscribe and keep updated. In NISO, as I said, SHERU is published by North American Standard Organization. And so there are different, clauses in the licensing agreement. I'm not going to go into the details. Most of you might be familiar, or the model license, if you run through, probably that will help you to look at each clauses. So we just, for our own purpose, we listed out what are the access related concerns, what are the use of electronic resources. So like, can we use for ILL and DDS? Can we use for course packages, course reserves, and some of the things like that. And whether the license agreements do specify vendor support and technical considerations and all that. Then what is the flexibility? Someone asked this question, cancellation, at what point of time you can cancel? And also, is there going to be a price cap? Do they agree? And the content is consistent with the print equivalent. Is everything that is printed in the form of the journal issue, is that being covered in electronic format? And when do you drop out from your subscriptions? And legal issues like terms and payments and grace period, how much period they will allow us to clear the payment, and also so for the renewing, so do they give, if our subscription ends on 31st, do they allow 1 month, 2 month grace period to continue to access this resource while we are discussing whether to subscribe or continue the subscription or not? And another clause is, so this license agreement that we sign, and what is the jurisdiction within the country or outside the country? And some of the publishers are very, very adamant, they don't agree. So we can't just blindly sign, but we need to put up our effort and negotiate. And then comes, after the license agreement is signed, then the next step is activation and provision. And we do spend quite a bit of time to activate the access, and also where do we, what is the point of access for the users? This is something which is important. Is that one place from where they can access, or more than one place? Can we use OPAC to list the electronic resources or major databases, or the website itself, or do we create a subject indexes discipline-wise? Or how do we, if we are subscribing to any federated search engines or linked resolvers or discovery services, how do we integrate and also creating the resource guides. And do we want to list, embed this list in the course packs and all that? So how do we provide is it A to Z listing of the resources or publisher wise? So there are many ways how one can provide the access, and we try as many as possible, and then see that user get easy access to. It's not just one point access, it's a multiple point access that one need to provide. And yeah, these are different ways that we use promoting the use of the electronic resources. I'm sure most of you do it. This is something not new. In fact, we also send a weekly mailer, library team wants you to know kind of a thing, where we write a description about a particular electronic resource, and then we highlight important features, and we also identify all these tutorials, put up on the publisher website and provide a link, and many other things that you all do, and we are also doing it. And it's a great learning in term when it comes to promoting. A lot of things we can borrow from the electronic marketing field, and try to implement them within the library. There's not one way that is enough. I think we need to try multiple ways of doing it. And we are also seriously collaborating with the faculty to promote our electronic resources. So we feel that just libraries alone doing it is not enough. We need to partner with our faculty, our research scholars, and the students, assistants who come and work in the library. They're great ambassadors to promote our electronic resources. Yeah, all of these channels we use to reach out to our end users. Then troubleshooting. So there are always issues that we face, and most often is that some students try to download a good number of articles at one go, and without knowing much about the complexities, or that we have signed the license agreement, and we have to our systems at the publisher end, they automatically stop access and they send the notice, and then we need to investigate and go back. And of course, other than that, there are many other troubleshooting things, challenges that comes up, and we look at it. And so one thing that is very complex is many times publishers do not inform you in advance when they have transferred the title to other publishers. They almost inform you at the end. And so that's where I think we need to keep looking at the publisher website, tracking the newsletters and all that. So once they transfer the title to some other publishers, and so what is the price that you are going to pay to the publisher, the existing publisher who was handling those titles, and the other publisher to whom they have transferred happens to be a new publisher, and he is going to charge you much more money than what you were paying. So these are complex issues that I think as and when we get those issues, we need to deal with. But it's always interesting to deal with issues. So otherwise, no fun, isn't it? Managing. Then gathering the usage statistics is the 8th step that we look at, and the statistics is very important. And so for us, one is that Infonet shares the usage data for the resources that we subscribe to through them, or they support. The other is, so one is that we just don't depend on only that statistics. I think we go to most of the publisher websites and extract this data periodically. And of course, annually, this is required. And without the data, we cannot take it up for our renewal. And we look at the counter compliance with each publisher. And so we haven't yet implemented Sushi. We haven't integrated with Coral. And this is something that we want to do it. Yeah, that's about the statistics. So the counter you're all familiar with, and the counter has come up with the 5th version, and which offers consistency, simplicity, and flexibility, clarity compared to the the fourth version. And this is something that we need to see when we are taking a decision whether to subscribe to a particular resource or not, whether a publisher is complying with the counter practice. So this particular new version is offering more than one format of producing the statistics, and it has gone beyond what one was expecting earlier. And then, of course, like all of everybody does it, every library, whether it is a print journals or electronic resources, electronic journals, we will have to really review. And what we do is annually we do send out an email and take a feedback from faculty and our entire range of users. And then, then of course we consolidate the information and we look at not only the number of downloads, but also the number of requests that have come for a number of articles published in those journals and citations and all of that. We look at it. And then, so we also look at how relevant this particular resource has been. And we also see, what's the kind of ratio, and so every download is costing how much money and all that, and should we go for more than 1 year contract? So some of these things that we do, and we also have discussions within the committees and the discipline coordinators and a different group which is working in those areas and all that. Typically every library does this, and so we are also doing that. We just don't automatically go ahead and renew, even if it comes to a core resource. You have to go through that process of evaluating. And one thing that I must mention here is that a lot of librarians take a pride in that, this particular resource has been downloaded so many times. Our usage has been increasing, which is a very good and all that. So we happily present it to the committee, present it to the heads of the institutes. So on the contrary, what we are trying to do at IIT Gandhinagar is we are trying to educate our users by saying that please download once and use multiple times, because every download is costing us money, and ultimately publishers are looking at how this particular each resource is used. If there is an increase, particularly some of the resources like ACS and all that, American Chemical Society, they are all looking at the usage very, very cautiously, and they are increasing the prices, which is, this is not sustainable. So we are day in and day out, we are trying to communicate to our faculty and students that please download, although these resources are accessible 24 hours to all of you, but when you download once, why don't you use reference management softwares and create your own small collection? And so it serves both purpose. That one is you're training your researchers to use reference management softwares and build their own collection, which they can use. Not only they can use, they can also share among the same team of the researcher within the organization. So that way we are trying to control the download and but maximize the usage in a better way. So this is something that I think, it's good to do it, so not fall prey to the publishers, this one, because publishers are very smart. They are exposing their content in through the multiple platforms. They come and say that, there are so many downloads, so many turnaways and all that. So we hardly look at that, turnaways. So people are in the habit of clicking, as they see their reference. But then, so that may not be the actual, it may not translate into a genuine need. So anyway, so there are several other factors that we look at it before renewing. And coming down to the electronic resource management softwares. As you may be familiar, there were a lot of these products came up in the market. Most of the commercial publishers try to develop different modules or standalone products to support the management of the electronic resources. They were not all that comprehensive, but today when you look at some of the state-of-the-art library management systems, they do have a provision to manage the electronic resources. Then, of course, open source. You're all familiar with Coral. This is one. This is developed exclusively for managing the electronic resources, and the Folio, which is going to be full-fledged library management softwares, has been offering this, and you had session and you are going to continue to work on this, and Geo has been using this, and I'm sure you are getting a complete insight into this particular management software, library management software. In addition to these two, and there were efforts made by different universities as projects, and they still are there, and some of those universities who were partners in developing these, they have used ERMES is one, CUFTS ERM is another one, eMatrix is another one. So these are the open source tools that are available, and we see that Coral and Folio are picking up fast. And we tried to, since we use Koha does not give enough a provision to manage the electronic resources, we explored with the support from our trainee colleagues using this Coral. So Coral, as you know, it offers 5 modules, the resources, licensing, and organization, usage statistics, and management. What we did was, what we did was we tried to use first 3 modules. We made an attempt. I won't say that we have fully implemented it, but we have found it that one can use this and to manage the electronic resources. So since it provides all the modules that one requires, so we started with 3 modules. And so this is what the data that you can see. Most of the publishers' information and the journals titles are entered here. And it's easy to use software, and so it doesn't require much of the technical support. And this is a publisher, organizations. So that's where you can create a master file of the publishers that you deal with. And keeping updated. So these are different resources, so that if our major responsibility is to manage the electronic resources, whether it is a one-person library or a team of the library professionals, I think it's important for us to keep in touch with some of these resources. One is, anyway, we all do this formal education and continuing education program, the one that you are all attending. And membership of a consortium, and also professional bodies. ER and L is electronic libraries, which is a major platform. And Charles Advisor and Charles Conference are major resources to track the electronic resources. And there are other forums, and NASIG, North American Serials Interest Group, and UK Serials Group are important resources to look at and be in touch with. And of course, our own InfluNet keeps conducting the workshops and conferences. So we need to look at, even if we are not attending, we can keep looking at what other colleagues have been doing and publishing. So, and there are, in addition to the websites, there are also discussion forums. So there is an exclusive group for LIS e-resources, and I think that alone can be enough to get to know what's the discussion that is happening around the world on this particular discussion forum. And there are many other ways that one can keep informed. And this is a ER and L website. They conduct conferences every year, and these presentations are worth looking at, and you get to know the trend and which way electronic resources management is going, what is the trend in this particular area. And as I said, NASIG is one of the important bodies, and they have come up with competencies, and UK is another one, and they have a open accessible journal called Insights. They publish a good number of articles, and they're freely accessible. So that's something to look at. And also they conduct the conference that one can attend, or at least follow what kind of papers are presented, talks are given. And as I said, NASIG had a task force set up in 2013, and they came up with the core competencies for electronic resources librarian, and that has been revised in 2021, sometime in October 2021. This competencies, core competencies are divided into how many? 7 areas. One need to know the complete life cycle of the e-resources and the technologies that are around that can be used to manage the electronic resources, and research and assessment, that's basically evaluation, and effective communication. Also they list it as a core competencies. That is, how do you communicate to end user, communicate with the publisher, communicate with your faculty, communicate with your administration within the institute to convince and supervising and management, trends and professional development. And they're also listing certain personal qualities that are required for managing the electronic resources. So I think this is something that is useful to look at. And in addition to that, they also have another core competency, of course, not in this context that's useful, but this is scholarly communication, competencies that are required for, managing this scholarly communication within our organization. So that is something that is useful to look at. So this is the development that I presented to you already, the terms as far as the electronic resource management is concerned. And well, I am almost at the end of my presentation. So as I said in the beginning, it's evolving field, will continue to change, and the format and services largely driven by the library users. And we need to keep evaluating the existing products that we are subscribing and also new products. So we need to keep an open communication with publishers and vendors and libraries and professional colleagues. So we always have to find innovative ways to make optimum use of the money. Money is scanty, so we need to keep evaluating the resource that we subscribe. And also we need to keep tracking the potential and potential future products and also formats in the horizon. So I think we need to look at the consortia that we have in the country, and how we can be part of these consortia, and then take the benefit of this, and also promote the use of quality open access resources. It's not just all the time looking at the subscribed resources. There are plenty of journals, databases which are freely available. How do we promote these ones? So in addition to subscribed resources, this is all that I wanted to present.